Okay, so we start out with a shameless plug for my company instead of the lead-in. So, such is life, and it's all about acceptance today, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another People First. And yes, we are talking about acceptance today. And I've got my colleagues here at the ready, starting with to one side of me, Mr. John Chapelier, ladies and gentlemen, followed by the Linda Vetras Nichols and my good friend and colleague Jenny Landgren. And of course, I get to be host. So again, we're talking about acceptance. And what does that mean? Jenny wrote something recently that I would like her to do a lead-in on, because just setting up for this live today, ladies and gentlemen, has been interesting. And we get to think and talk about that. Jenny, I'm going to mute and pass it over to you.
Oh, thank you, Terry. Yes, right before we were going live, everything that could go wrong just went wrong, right? On my side, like the microphone wasn't working, and then I was trying to get on my phone, and I wasn't used to that. And it was so perfect. I loved that all of that happened right before this live, because we're talking about acceptance. And acceptance is about recognizing things that are outside of our control. It is about letting them go. It's about what we're choosing. We're choosing to be present with, what is and what is within our sphere of control, right? So today there was a lot of acceptance on my end. This is how it is, and let's accept it and be present with what choices can I step into? What are the opportunities for me right now? So happy to open up, Terry. Thank you. And I'm so glad to be here, and everything worked out nicely.
Well, my Thursday gigs are pre-recorded, so you just start over again. You just stop and start, stop and start. When you're live, it's got to be ready. And when something happens, it happens. And it's not going to go away, and people know that you're real. And so acceptance is a great deal of just, you know what, I'm okay. I'm going to get through this. And as Linda's mother and I stole my mother-in-law, she's my mother now. This too shall pass. And it really does. Sometimes that's very hard to acknowledge. And I'm one of those, I got a lot of Irish in me, so that's hard to acknowledge sometimes. And so I'd like to pass it over to Linda now to just kind of expound on how that goes.
Well, admitting we don't have control is huge. What we have control over is our decisions. We can choose. It doesn't mean that what we choose will happen the way we've decided it's going to happen. And so the part of that is to let go. So make a decision, choose what it is that you want to have happen, and then let it go. Because when you do that, and if it doesn't go the way you intended to have it go, if it didn't turn out to be the outcome you were choosing, then you've already let go. So it just is. And then you can make a new decision. And I just think that's a very healthy way to live. It's a place of what I call healthy detachment. I always say walk at the level of your soul. When you're up in your head, your ego is going crazy usually too. And you're like, trying to control it by making all these, processing what's going on. And you just get into a panic. So that's kind of like how I see acceptance. Make a decision. Know the outcome you're seeking. Hold that vision. If it doesn't happen that way, that's cool. And I like to think of it as an adventure. when things aren't working out, it's like, okay, what's next? What's coming next? I know that Terry and I both experienced things like his computer, like he worked really, really hard on something one day and boom, it just disappeared. It was gone, totally gone. And he was like, and then when he redid it, it was even better than what he had originally typed up. And so that's the adventure. It's like, whoa, because I felt like whatever I just did, it's like that was really, really good. And then if I lose it, then it's probably going to come in even better. So that's another way of letting go and accepting what is, and then choosing the next thing that you want to have happen. Or now that you've got that variable in there, you can still go after that same outcome. It doesn't change it. That's kind of part of Terry's vision strategy roadmap. You're still going to grandma's. You'll eventually get those cookies. It's just, you stopping along the way and things get in the way and the route might even change, but you're still gonna get there. Does that make sense?
Outstanding. Yeah, I'm often quoted as presence is a point where manifestation becomes action. Everything from this point back in time is a learning experience. Hold on to it, but don't dwell in there. Don't go in there. The future is a guess, so let that go. You only have right now in the present. And when you stay in the present, you are just here at the gas station. You can see in your mind grandma's house down the road, and you don't know if you're going to get caught up in construction or anything like that on your way to grandma's house. And it's really not that important, because the vision is to get you and your family to grandma's. And when everything gets set back and one of the kids spills everything they're trying to eat all over their new clothes, you deal with it. It's happened. You just deal with it. You get to choose what you're going to do there. It's not a bad choice or a good choice. It's simply a choice. Staying on a non-duality and just allowing that to flow. I'm going to pass this over to John now and for some comments as well.
Thanks, Terry. I think the simplest thing for me when I think about acceptance is the way in which I used to think of it was, it's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's wait and see. That allows me to stop judging it immediately, because that's what I always needed to do. It had to be determined, is this right or wrong, good or bad? And then at that point, you can get angry or frustrated or whatever it was, instead of just staying calm. And this was the issue that we were talking about earlier and laughing about earlier when Jenny was having a hard time getting online. And it's that by the three of it, if all of us had our mics on, we were all yelling back and forth about exactly how to help Jenny get online. Oh my God, oh my God. All she would do is freak out, and we'd still probably be trying to figure out how to get online, because everybody's jumping in trying to figure it out, versus just accepting the fact that this is the issue, staying calm and allowing us to work through the process so that a positive result can come out. I remember one time in a small workshop I did, which was kind of like an EMBA thing, and I said, you have to understand that acceptance can be the answer to all your problems. In Course in Miracles, they use acceptance can be considered, acceptance and forgiveness are equivalent of salvation. Now, I don't talk much about religious stuff or churchy things at all, but it is completely an opening and relaxing of our souls, and an elimination of the need to be in control. And while we might want to attempt to be in control, like Linda said earlier, my belief is we have control over our thoughts. We don't even necessarily have control over our actions, because I can't tell you how many times I thought of doing something and then did something else, or I thought I would stay calm and I didn't stay calm. So I have control over what I think. Sometimes it connects to my body and the actions are aligned with my brain, but sometimes they aren't. So I don't have control. But the one thing I do have with acceptance is if I'm practicing emotional balance and I'm staying open in my heart and I'm able to practice staying calm and centered, then what I have is not control, but what I have is influence. And the influence can be very powerful. And trust me, you still have influence. If you lose it, you have control, you have influence too. It's just not good influence. But if you want people in an organization to listen to you, if you want someone in your family to listen to you, if you want somebody in any organization, group, or team that you want, if you stay centered, you're able to deal with the problem. You're able to articulate it effectively so that you can get help on the problem. When you're not trying to be in control of everything, you can actually ask for input to help with the problem. So it allows us to just, as Linda would have said, just sort of stay in your soul, just be here, and these answers and things will bubble up if you don't get in the way. So it's kind of us need to get out of our own way sometimes just to let these things sort of come up.
That's so cool. I'd love to connect acceptance with expectation. I had people when I was raising my kids, or even when I worked in a psychiatric day treatment center, they're like, "You are like the most patient person I've ever met." And I kind of took a look at that, and it was like, I just expected my kids to act worse, or at the day treatment center, I just expected the behaviors to be worse. And the kids just did the opposite. They gave me so much more when my expectations for them were low. I believe that when we throw really high expectations at people, we actually increase their anxiety. And the crazy and violent behaviors that were going on at the day treatment center really were fueled by anxiety. I had a kid who he had such bad reactive attachment disorder going on that he could not walk down the hallway in front of anybody. He had to walk backwards and face the person who was behind him. That is just anxiety off the wall. So when I expected less, I actually got more, if that makes any sense. And the kids really picked up on that and rose to the occasion. And that was always good because I saved myself a black eye or two.
And
Go ahead, Jenny.
thank you. Yes, we are so used to people wanting to be on our side of the fence. I mean, Linda, those kids were used to people wanting so much for them. And you actually took a few steps back and showed them that I see you, I accept you for where you are, and I'm holding this space for you to make up your choices. I love that, and I see it with my clients as well. And when you were talking, like we're all really talking about choices, and for us to get to make our choices, we need that sense of clarity. And it's really hard to find a sense of clarity when we are in resistance. So for me, it's about the opening up to the lessons. In every situation, there is a lesson, to be a teachable soul, to go from why is this happening to me to open up, what is this teaching me? And that really fuels us even to take that next step and to go with the flow of things, because life is change. That is the only thing that will never change, right? And we get to enjoy those changes. Very cool.
That's spot on. And all of us, we've talked about this part of this conversation individually and collectively these last weeks. And ladies and gentlemen, for you that are watching live right now, thank you for being here. And for those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for doing so. it's important, and you probably have reflected on walking into a room before that was filled with a lot of anxiety and dysfunction, and all of a sudden you had anxiety and dysfunction. You just absorbed that energy and became caught up in it. And it's very easy to do. Or you walk in, the day has been lousy, you're late to work, everything is wrong. You walk in the door and everybody's smiling at you, saying, "Hey, you made it, great, we're so happy." And everything is not so bad anymore. There's an energy shift there. Call it what you like, but it's energy. You feel it, you absorb it. We are all energetic people, and how we think about ourselves at any given moment will throw us into that negative side of high anxiety and fear, or it'll throw us into that, I'm okay, I accept me. And this is the moment I accept me, everything around me I accept. Everything shifts. The energy around the people that are around you. It could be a chaotic situation. All of a sudden the chaos starts to slow down because you've changed the energy. Others will catch that near you originally, and then others near them and others near them, and it just exponentially expands. And that's huge for what we're dealing with in the world right now. There's a lot of discourse. We don't have an official world war going on right now, but there's every bit as much fear and anxiety of what's going on in one part of Eastern Europe. And it's in every corner, it's in every community of the world, because we're all connected. Ladies and gentlemen, we're connected 24/7. And so we are all in Ukraine. We are all in Russia. We are all in recently, Turkey and Iran have generated interest in Mr. Putin. So we're there, we're feeling it, and even though that my cell phone or this computer right now is separated from what I'm looking at, the fact that I'm looking at it, I assimilate that angst, that fear, that anxiety, because we are a sensory unit. The five senses absorb and send accordingly. And so that's very important for us to think about. And anybody, what do you got?
Terry, one of the things that I try to express to people, especially when I'm trying to help them not get so sucked into what you're talking about, is to remember that fear is so much easier to sell than joy. It's just, it is our reptilian brain that wants to keep us safe. And if I can continue to keep you in fear and keep you off balance, if I'm selling you something in a media component, then you want to stay and listen to more. And so, it's very much a seductive process of bringing people in, maintaining a level of fear so that hopefully they'll come back and you'll provide them with a solution. But usually what we're having today is just a continuation of fear. And the reality is that, if we would stop worrying so much about being the same or being in agreement with each other and just accepting each other, because acceptance is not agreement. Acceptance is just, you can be what you are, you can be whom you are, you can make the decisions you want to be. That doesn't change whether or not I accept you. If I'm accepting of, and usually when I talk about gratitude, I talk about gratitude is for all things at all times, including the negative things. It is ways in which we grow and we become stronger. I mean, the old days when a blacksmith would work on a piece of steel, he would, or she would put it into the fire, heat it up, and work on an anvil, and then place it into some oil or water at much cooler temperature, and then put it back in the fire, and back and forth and back and forth. And the hotter the fire and the cooler the water, the stronger the steel became. So the more challenges that the steel went through, the more tempered it became and the stronger it became. And I believe that's what happens with us. If we would realize that it's not something that drives us from fear, but something that teaches us to build our character, to temper our capacity to deal with extremes. and try to be a part of the process rather than try to continually challenge the process. When you're working with, I try to tell people who are working with coaches that are not necessarily always warm and fuzzy, but sometimes very negative and very aggressive, is to find the thing that they're telling you that's right and listen to that, and then let the rest of it go. You know, because it can be that it's just the way in which they're expressing something, and what the kernel of the message is good. But if you just get yourself sucked into all the other adjectives and negativity, you'll miss the whole thing. So the idea here is, you know, take what you can take, listen to what you can listen to, and then let the rest go. Keep the good and let the rest go.
That so reminds me of what Jenny and our friend Stina Marie talks about as she was working with her nervous system and strengthening it. She learned about cold showers, and she would just like put a foot in and just say, it's just a sensation, it's just a sensation. And then she was able to do it like more and more of her body. And she still doesn't put it over her head, the cold water, or I don't even think she does her face, I'm not sure. And she's been able to take longer and longer cold showers. And she put a limit on it too. She doesn't do it all that long. It isn't necessary. It's just like at the gym, you know, you don't have to work out like a crazy person. You don't, you know, even walks, like you don't have to walk every single day or whatever. So 3-4 times a week, you know, it's that whole moderation thing. You don't have to go overboard to get results. Does that make sense?
Good stuff rolling here. Let me tell you. Hey, let's bring this into some final thoughts. Jenny, you've been silent for a while. It's your turn. Hop in.
Oh, goodness. There's so much to say about acceptance. I mean, 30 minutes doesn't cover it, right? It's so powerful for me when I meet a team where the individuals are accepting themselves. And it really only takes one to truly accept her or himself at his core, because it is contagious. When you meet someone who is willing and open to look at all the parts of themselves, to celebrate the, you know, the really juicy parts, and to develop and work on the parts they have yet to explore, it's an invitation. You can sense, you don't really have to verbalize it, but you can sense when a person is giving himself permission to be and enjoy himself in his life. So it's just contagious that you can never only free yourself. In accepting myself, I know when I walk into a room, I am freeing the people around me to give themselves permission to be themselves. And it's just very encouraging. I love this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, all of us. Anyone else with some final thoughts here today?
No, I think acceptance creates success, which breeds acceptance. So it's just a cycle of success and a cycle of acceptance that makes people want to come back for more. Just like the fear I was talking about earlier, if you can get people to realize the value of joy, because most times we don't really have a sense of that. We've been bombarded with fears, but if we can begin to understand what joy feels like and what actual peace of mind actually feels like, it's something that we want to come back and experience again and again and again.
Absolutely. You know, and you know, acceptance starts inside, yeah, but it can be small. It can be almost nondescript. Go back ladies and gentlemen, when you were children, just learning how to walk. How many times did you fall back down on your bumps? A lot. Okay, each one of those was a failure. You didn't know that, so you just got up and kept going. You know, every time that you got up and took another step, you got a little farther, and then you started walking real well, and then you started running, and look at yourselves now. And all of that starts with, okay, I'm going to do this. Okay, I accept the fact that I can do this because in my mind, there isn't any reason why I cannot do this. That has been my life. Okay, when I decided to change specialties in the Navy, all of my superiors, all of them said, don't do it. You will regret it. I not only excelled, I was one of the best in the Navy at what I did. And my promotions went skyrocketing while all of my peers who stayed back and stayed into their little portion of our specialty, they never got advanced. Well, duh, they never done anything. I have no fear because to me, it didn't exist. I'm going to do this. I've got a vision that I'm going to do this, and that's what I'm going to do. And everything I did was based on that vision. For those of you who follow me here on LinkedIn, you'll notice that that's the same way. Anybody else had a couple final thoughts here before we sign off today? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end another fabulous, fabulous session of People First. And I'm just very glad that you're coming along and you're following us along week to week. We got a few more weeks of these left every Wednesday during the lunch hour because life happens. So once in a while, we're a couple of minutes early from noon, a couple of minutes after, we don't care. It's the doing. It's not about setting a clock. We're living within the actuality of ourselves. So thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you next week.